Minecraft is packed with a wide array of unique features, but did you know that there are even more that you may have never encountered? Today, we're diving into the mysterious realm of promised features from Mojang that never quite made it into the game. Number 1. Years ago, Notch had plans to introduce a red dragon into Minecraft. However, this idea has been left untouched since then. Given that the Ender Dragon serves as the game's final boss, adding another dragon seems unlikely. However, Jeb, the lead designer, has mentioned that if red dragons were ever implemented, players would probably obtain them from the dragon egg. They wouldn't be able to land and wouldn't destroy terrain. 3 years later, Dinnerbone tweeted out that the red dragon has been shelved, leaving an empty promise behind. Dinnerbone once shared plans to introduce rare tools and weapons that couldn't be crafted and could only be found in treasure chests or through trading. He suggests things like bows with faster draw speeds and boots that increased health. While the quick charge enchantment was added later, the full vision of rare, uncraftable items remains unfinished. Mojang has hinted at adding these powerful items, but they have yet to deliver, leaving a gap in the late game progression that many players were excited about. Villagers are an essential part of Minecraft's ecosystem, offering trades and services to players. Currently, we have various types of villagers, such as farmers, librarians, and blacksmiths, each with different trades. Mojang once teased the idea of a musician villager who would trade musical items like note blocks, jukeboxes, and music discs. This could have added a fun, creative element to the village life, as players could purchase rare music discs or instruments. Unfortunately, the musician villager was never added, and villagers remain without any musical touch. Number 4. Fireworks were introduced to Minecraft in the 1.4.6 update, primarily as a decorative feature that players could craft and launch into the sky. Mojang once suggested that fireworks could have an effect on mobs, such as scaring wolves or other animals. This mechanic would have been given to fireworks as a functional purpose beyond their aesthetic value. Imagine using them to control hostile mobs or to protect livestock from wolves. Despite the idea being raised, Mojang never followed through, leaving fireworks as a colorful but non-functional display. Over the years, Mojang's biome votes have offered exciting previews of future game updates, especially when it comes to new mobs. Even though some biomes didn't win the vote, Mojang confirmed that these mobs would eventually make it into the game. Among the confirmed additions are ostriches and termites in the savannah, frogs in swamps, and vultures circling above badlands. While frogs have since hopped into the game, ostriches, termites, and vultures are still missing. It's been 3 years, Mojang, where are they? An early version of the Buzzy Bees update included a secret item known as crystallized honey. The exact purpose of this item is unknown, though some speculate it was meant to be a food source. However, its role was eventually filled by the honeycomb item, and any reference to the crystallized honey were removed within 2 months, making its disappearance even faster than some honeybees. Several cool features for nether portals have been teased but never added. Mojang discussed using the space above the nether for something interesting, creating non-rectangular portals, and even adding dyeable portals for different effects. Jeb mentioned these ideas during the nether update, but dismissed them as lower priority, and so far, none of these exciting portal changes have made an appearance. In 2015, a fan boldly asked Jeb if he could add nachos to Minecraft, sparking the dream of cheesy, crunchy snacks in the pixelated world. Unfortunately, Jeb dashed those hopes with a definitive no on the nacho front, but not all was lost. He did tease the possibility of corn as a future food source. Interestingly, turnips also had their moment in the spotlight briefly, mentioned as a potential addition before an update. But just like nachos, they never saw the light of day. Coal, iron, and gold were Minecraft's OG ores, the backbone of every player's mining adventures. But here's the twist. Early on, there was an idea that players could combine coal and iron to create steel. Imagine crafting tools and weapons even stronger than iron, giving you a serious edge in survival. It's a concept that almost happened, and it makes you wonder what the game would look like today if the steel had become a standard part of the crafting system. An exciting but drastic idea was proposed where all blocks except obsidian would be affected by gravity. Floating islands would require obsidian to stay afloat, changing the landscape of Minecraft entirely. However, this feature was never implemented. Mojang mentioned it during the early discussions, but it never made its way into the game, leaving a concept of a fully gravity-affected world just a distant dream. Thank God. If you've crafted in Minecraft, you've likely noticed the little green knowledge book in your inventory. These were originally going to be found in chests, and using one would teach players new crafting recipes. While this feature was mostly removed, remnants still exist in the game's code, allowing you to spawn books with this functionality. Naturally spawning knowledge books were removed, but they retain the same magenta name color as other unobtainable items. Snails were discussed as a future mob by Xylophone, a developer with some fun ideas for how they could work. Snails would be a cubed shape about the size of a player's head and would only move when the player weren't looking at them. This would give the sense that they moved slowly, one block at a time. They would spawn in humid biomes during rain and could be cooked for a chance to get rare items like nautilus shells or even a shulker shell. Players could dye their shells or even race them. In 2010, Notch talked about the possibility of adding sea monsters to Minecraft, with sharks being one of the creatures mentioned. However, Mojang has since confirmed that sharks won't be added due to their real-world status as an endangered animal. Despite this, Minecraft has introduced a variety of hostile sea creatures, including guardians and the drowned, making the oceans much more dangerous. Recent developers have hinted at the possibility of adding new ocean creatures like seals, sea lions, or even orcas, which would bring even more life to underwater biomes. However, we're still waiting on these features. Number 15. Dinnerbone once experimented with adding seasons to Minecraft, mentioning features like changing the color of tree leaves and varying day and night lengths based on the time of year. While this idea was discussed as far back as Minecraft 2013, seasons still haven't been added to the game. Jeb once had the idea of creating a mob that could blend in with its surroundings. This concept was originally considered for the shulker, a mob added in the combat update. The idea was for the shulker to camouflage itself, making it harder for players to see, but the feature was scrapped due to coding difficulties. Instead, shulkers hide in plain sight by matching the color of their shells to end cities. Although this mechanic didn't make it into the game, Jeb hinted that camouflage mobs could still be added in the future. In 2012, Dinnerbone hinted at the development of a mysterious new mob. Years later, in 2020, he revealed that this mob was meant to be the Pigment Bodyguard. The idea was for the mob to spawn without any clothes, and players would be able to equip it with armor to protect their base. However, the idea was eventually abandoned, and the mob was never added to the game. While Dinnerbone shared exciting details, it's another feature that Mojang discovered but never followed through on. Throughout Minecraft's development, several tree-related features were discussed but never fully realized. Notch once mentioned the idea of adding branches to trees, and while sideway logs were later added, they only appear in a few tree types like acacia, cherry, and chorus trees, not regular ones. Fallen trees can be seen in Bedrock Edition, were also discussed for Java, but aside from concept art, they're yet to be properly implemented. At Minecon 2018, Mojang introduced palm and boab trees in a biome vote, promising that even if the biomes weren't chosen, that these trees would be added later. However, years have passed and these trees still have not appeared in the game. Mojang has teased many potential features for caves over the years, but quite a few of them are still missing. Notch once talked about rainbow crystalline caves and cave maps as interesting ideas. While Minecraft's cave generation has seen a major improvement with the Caves and Cliffs update, these specific features are nowhere to be found. Mega Beasts were teased as the potential late-game challenge, featuring terrifying creatures that could bring chaos to the player's world. Notch talked about ill omens like flickering torches and a big red eye on the moon, signaling the arrival of these massive beasts. While we've seen features like the Wither and Ender Dragon, these promised mega beasts have not made it into the game. In Minecraft's early development, Notch talked about adding more game modes beyond survival and creative. Ideas like Team Survival Mode, Fortress, and even Capture the Flag mode were mentioned, promising new ways to play. He also discussed difficulty levels ranging from Walk in the Park to the brutal Armageddon mode that was said to need 16 players to beat. Despite these concepts, none of these modes have been added to the game. Number 24. When you walk around in real life, you leave footprints behind, so Mojang were going to make footprints into a feature in Minecraft. There actually used to be a footprint item in the game. This is a joke referencing the unused particle that uses the same texture and how it's been missing from the final game. I'd love to see footprints make a return, but they might leave the locations of a few secret bases. One of the most frequently discussed ideas in Minecraft's technical community is vertical redstone. Redstone, which powers machines like doors, pistons, and traps, is currently limited to horizontal surfaces. Players have long wanted the ability to replace redstone vertically up walls to create more efficient builds. When asked about it, Jeb said he'd liked the idea of vertical redstone and was planning on implementing it. However, it was a low priority. The priority must have been really low, because 8 years later and we still have nothing. Small smoke particle effects and a clunk sound was supposed to play when a piston tries to push a block but fails. If you used an enchanted bow to craft a dispenser, the arrows fired from the dispenser would inherit the bow's enchantments. Exploding arrows! All of these are features that were promised, but we never got. Subscribe!